The conference room fell silent as Marcus Chen held up the delicate silver bracelet, its 3 interlocking hearts catching the fluorescent light. His hand trembled slightly as he addressed the woman at the head of the table, Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Industries, one of the most powerful executives in the city. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Marcus said, his voice barely steady, "but where did you get that bracelet?" Victoria's fingers instinctively moved to her wrist, touching the piece of jewelry she wore every single day. The entire board of directors turned to stare at Marcus, a mid-level project manager who had just violated every rule of corporate hierarchy by speaking out of turn during the quarterly review meeting. "Excuse me," Victoria's voice was sharp, her ice blue eyes narrowing. Marcus swallowed hard. He'd prepared for this moment for 3 years, but now that it was here, the words caught in his throat. Behind him, he could feel his supervisor's mortified stare burning into his back. "That bracelet," he repeated, stepping forward despite every instinct screaming at him to sit down and shut up. "It belonged to my wife." The room erupted in whispers. Victoria raised her hand for silence, her expression unreadable. She studied Marcus for a long moment, taking in his wrinkled shirt, the exhaustion etched into his 32-year-old face, the desperate determination in his eyes. "I think," she said slowly, "we should take this conversation to my office." Board meeting adjourned. 20 minutes later, Marcus sat across from Victoria in her corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city skyline behind her. He held a photograph in his hands, one of the few things he carried in his wallet everywhere he went. It showed a young woman with warm brown eyes and an infectious smile, wearing the exact same bracelet that now adorned Victoria's wrist. Her name was Sarah, Marcus began, his voice thick with emotion. "Sarah Chen. We married young. I was 23, she was 22. Everyone said we were crazy, that we should wait, build our careers first. But when you know, you know." Victoria remained silent, her fingers still resting on the bracelet. "We had a daughter 6 months after we married. Emma, she's 7 now." Marcus's eyes glistened. "Sarah was everything, an amazing mother, my best friend, the person who made me believe I could be more than I was. She worked as a nurse at County General, always taking extra shifts so we could save for a house. I was finishing my engineering degree at night school." He paused, gathering the strength to continue. 3 years ago, Sarah was driving home from a double shift. It was 2 in the morning. There was an accident on the highway, a multi-car pileup. She stopped to help because that's who she was. She couldn't just drive past people in need. Victoria's professional mask began to crack, her expression softening. She was helping a woman trapped in an overturned sedan when another car, driver drunk, came barreling through. Sarah pushed the woman out of the way. Marcus's voice broke. She saved that woman's life. But Sarah didn't make it. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. "The bracelet was custom made," Marcus continued. 3 hearts for the 3 of us, me, Sarah, and Emma. I gave it to her on our first anniversary. The police gave me back her belongings, but this bracelet wasn't among them. I searched everywhere, contacted everyone who'd been at the scene. It was the one thing Emma asked about constantly. "Where's Mommy's bracelet?" she'd cry. "The one that means we're a family." Victoria stood abruptly, walking to the window. Her shoulders shook, slightly, and Marcus realized she was crying, this powerful CEO who commanded billion-dollar deals with an iron will. "Mr. Chen," she finally said, her voice strained, "I was the woman in that car." The world seemed to tilt beneath Marcus's feet. Victoria turned to face him, tears streaming down her cheeks unchecked. "I was coming back from a business trip. I'd had 2 glasses of wine at dinner, not enough to impair me legally, but enough that when I saw brake lights too late, my reaction time wasn't what it should have been. I swerved, lost control, and my car flipped." She removed the bracelet with shaking hands, holding it as if it were made of glass. "I was trapped, disoriented, panicking. And then there was this angel, this woman with the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. She told me everything would be okay. She held my hand while she worked to free my seatbelt. She talked to me, kept me calm, told me about her daughter who loved to paint, about her husband who was going to be an engineer." Victoria's voice cracked completely. "She told me about this bracelet. She said it reminded her why she fought so hard every day, because the 3 hearts meant her family would always be connected, no matter what. She was showing it to me, telling me about how you'd scrimped and saved to have it made, when I heard the screaming. People yelling for her to move. She looked up, saw the headlights coming straight for us. Marcus couldn't breathe. He'd imagined Sarah's final moments 1,000 times, but hearing it from someone who was there broke something open inside him. She pushed me, Victoria whispered. Used all her strength to shove me out through the window she'd just cleared. I fell onto the pavement. The impact knocked me unconscious. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me what happened. They told me about the hero who'd saved 5 people that night before sacrificing herself for one more. She walked over to Marcus, kneeling before him despite her expensive suit, despite her position, despite everything. This bracelet was somehow on the ground near me when I was put in the ambulance. In my confused, traumatized state, I grabbed it. I think part of me knew it was important. When I recovered enough to think clearly, I tried to find out who it belonged to, but there was so much chaos that night, so many victims. I didn't know her name. I didn't know how to find her family. Victoria placed the bracelet gently in Marcus's palm. I've worn this every single day for 3 years. I told myself I was keeping it safe until I could return it to its rightful owner. But really, I think I wore it because it reminded me of her. Of the woman who gave me a second chance at life. Marcus stared at the bracelet, emotions warring inside him, grief, anger, relief, confusion. Why didn't you try harder to find us? The question came out sharper than he intended. I did try, Victoria said, her voice earnest. But I was also ashamed. Guilty. I kept thinking that if I'd been more careful, if I'd left dinner earlier, if I'd never taken that business trip, so many ifs. I saw a therapist for 2 years. I still wake up some nights in a cold sweat, seeing her push me to safety. She returned to her chair, looking suddenly smaller despite her commanding presence. After the accident, I changed everything about how I lived. I evaluated every priority. I'd been on track to get married to someone I didn't love because it made sense for our families, our social circles. I ended it. I'd been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder that I'd forgotten why I got into business in the first place. I wanted to make a difference, to help people. I restructured our entire company culture, created work-life balance policies, started a foundation for first responders and their families. Victoria looked directly at Marcus. Your wife didn't just save my life that night. She saved who I was as a person. Every decision I've made since has been with her in mind. I kept asking myself, what would she do? How can I honor her sacrifice? Marcus felt tears finally spill down his own cheeks. For 3 years, he'd been angry at the universe for taking Sarah. He'd been drowning in single parenthood, struggling to be enough for Emma while working full-time and grieving. He'd felt Sarah's death was meaningless, a good person gone too soon with nothing to show for it but absence and pain. I have something to show you, Victoria said softly. She pulled out her phone, navigating to a video. This was last month. On the screen, Marcus saw a ribbon-cutting ceremony. A new building, bright, modern, welcoming. The sign read, Sarah Chen Memorial First Responders Wellness Center. Free counseling, medical care, childcare support, and financial planning for paramedics, firefighters, police, and emergency medical personnel, Victoria explained. We broke ground a year ago. Your wife's story inspired it. Her sacrifice showed me that the people who run toward danger need support systems to sustain them and their families. Marcus watched the video through blurred vision. There was a memorial wall inside the center, and right in the middle was Sarah's photograph, the same one from their wedding, her smile radiant and full of life. I tried to find you for the opening, Victoria said quietly. I wanted you and your daughter there. But, Marcus Chen, is surprisingly common, and I didn't have enough information. When you stood up in that meeting today, and I saw your ID badge with your full name, something clicked. Then when you mentioned your wife, I knew. She leaned forward, her expression intense. I owe your family everything, Mr. Chen. Name it, and it's yours. Marcus shook his head slowly. I don't want money or favors. He looked down at the bracelet in his hand, running his thumb over the 3 hearts. I just wanted to understand. Emma asks about her mother every single day. She started forgetting little things, the exact sound of Sarah's laugh, the songs she used to sing. I do my best, but I'm just one person trying to be 2 parents. Tell me about Emma, Victoria said gently. And so Marcus did. He talked about his daughter's love of painting, just like Sarah had mentioned to Victoria that night. He talked about her questions about heaven and whether her mother could see her from there. He talked about the guilt he felt when he was too exhausted to attend a school event, or when he lost his patience after a long day, or when he looked at Emma and saw so much of Sarah that it physically hurt. Being a single parent is the hardest thing I've ever done, Marcus admitted. I love Emma more than life itself, but some days I'm just surviving, not thriving. I can't afford the kind of after-school programs she needs. She's gifted in art, but private lessons are out of reach. I'm constantly choosing between being present for her and working enough hours to keep us afloat. Victoria listened intently to every word. When Marcus finished, she was quiet for a long moment. I can't bring Sarah back, she finally said. I can't undo the past or erase your pain. But I can honor her memory by helping her family, the family she died protecting me for. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because it's what she would have wanted. Over the next hour, they talked. Really talked. Victoria shared more about her transformation since the accident, about the therapy and the sleepless nights and the gradual rebuilding of herself into someone she could be proud of. Marcus shared about the support groups he'd tried and abandoned, about well-meaning friends who'd drifted away when his grief became uncomfortable, about the loneliness of being 29 with a young daughter and no roadmap for moving forward. When Marcus finally left Victoria's office 3 hours later, he carried more than just Sarah's bracelet. He carried the beginnings of understanding, and something else, something that felt almost like hope. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Victoria personally ensured that Emma was enrolled in an exceptional after-school art program. Marcus was promoted to senior project manager with a significant raise and flexible hours that allowed him to be present for school pickups and events. But more than that, Victoria became something unexpected, a friend. She asked to meet Emma, and Marcus, after much thought, agreed. They met at a park on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Emma was shy at first, clinging to her father's hand, but Victoria knew exactly how to talk to children. She didn't patronize or overwhelm. She simply sat on the bench and asked Emma about her paintings. I paint my mommy sometimes, Emma said softly, showing Victoria a picture on Marcus's phone. It showed a woman with angel wings, surrounded by hearts. Your mommy was the bravest person I ever met, Victoria said, her eyes meeting Emma's directly. Did your daddy ever tell you that she was a hero? Emma nodded. He says she saved people. That she's in heaven now. She saved me, Victoria said simply. And because she did, I got to change my life. I got to help lots of other people. Your mommy's kindness rippled out into the world like drops in a pond, making everything better. Emma considered this. Can I paint you a picture? Of the ripples? I would be honored, Victoria replied. That painting now hung in Victoria's office, right next to her desk, a child's interpretation of water ripples spreading out, each ripple labeled with words like kindness, bravery, and love. It reminded her daily of what mattered most. 6 months after that first confrontation in the boardroom, Marcus stood in his new apartment, nothing fancy, but spacious enough for Emma to have her own room with space for an art corner. Emma was at a sleepover with friends she'd made at her art program. For the first time in years, Marcus had an evening alone with his thoughts. He sat on his couch, Sarah's bracelet in his hands. He'd had it cleaned and repaired where the silver had tarnished. Tomorrow, he planned to give it to Emma for her 8th birthday. She was finally old enough to take care of it, to understand its significance. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. How are you doing tonight? They'd developed an unexpected friendship over the months. She'd become Emma's honorary aunt, showing up for art shows and birthday celebrations. She'd introduced Marcus to her therapist, who'd helped him process his grief in healthier ways. She'd proved through consistent action that Sarah's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Marcus replied, thinking about Sarah. Missing her, but also grateful. For what? Victoria wrote back. Marcus thought about his response carefully. For the time we had. For Emma. For understanding that Sarah's last act was pure love, protecting a stranger because that's who she was. And for you, for honoring her memory in ways I never could have alone. Victoria's response came after a pause. I think about her every day. I hope I'm making her proud. You are, Marcus typed. We both are. The next evening, Emma unwrapped her birthday present with eager hands. When she saw the bracelet, her eyes went wide. Mommy's bracelet, she gasped. The one that was lost. It wasn't lost, Marcus said, pulling her into his lap. It was being kept safe by someone your mommy saved. And now it's yours, to remind you that no matter what happens, we're always connected. You, me, and mommy. 3 hearts, 1 family. Emma clutched the bracelet to her chest, tears rolling down her cheeks. I won't ever take it off. You might have to, for showers, Marcus said with a gentle laugh, kissing the top of her head. Then only for showers, Emma insisted. She slipped it onto her small wrist. Daddy, do you think Mommy can see us? Marcus looked at his daughter, this beautiful, talented, kind child who was Sarah's greatest legacy. He thought about Victoria and the lives she changed, about the wellness center helping thousands of first responders, about the ripples of kindness still spreading from one woman's choice to stop and help a stranger. Yes, he said firmly. I think she sees us. And I think she's so proud of the person you're becoming. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat down and did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He wrote a letter to Sarah. Dear Sarah, he began, I found your bracelet. But more than that, I found out that your last act saved someone who has helped save us in return. I was so angry for so long, feeling like your death was meaningless. But I understand now, you taught someone that life is precious, that kindness matters, that we're all connected. Your legacy isn't just Emma or me, it's everyone whose life is better because you showed Victoria what true courage looks like. I'll never stop missing you. Emma needs her mother, and I need my wife. But I'm learning to live with the grief instead of drowning in it. I'm learning that loving you doesn't mean I can't also build a new life. You'd want that for us. You'd want us to be happy. Thank you for being exactly who you were. Thank you for stopping that night, even though it cost you everything. Thank you for loving us so completely that it still sustains us 3 years later. We're okay, Sarah. It took a long time and a lot of help, but we're okay. And we'll keep going, carrying your love with us, 3 hearts forever connected. Until we meet again, Marcus. He sealed the letter and placed it in the memory box he kept of Sarah's belongings. Someday, when Emma was older, he'd show her all of these letters. For now, it was enough to have written it, to have acknowledged both the pain and the healing. 2 years later, Marcus stood beside Victoria as they cut the ribbon on a new wing of the Sarah Chen Memorial Center, this one focused on supporting children who'd lost first responder parents. Emma, now 10 and astonishingly talented, had created a mural for the children's grief counseling room. It showed a garden where flowers grew from tears, reaching toward the sun. Your mother would be so proud of you, Victoria whispered to Emma, squeezing her hand. I know, Emma said simply, touching the bracelet she never took off except for showers, just as she'd promised. I can feel it. Marcus watched his daughter, strong and kind and resilient, and realized that Sarah lived on in ways he'd never imagined that horrible night 3 years ago. She lived on in Emma's compassion, in Victoria's transformation, in every first responder who found support at the center bearing her name, in every life touched by the ripples of her sacrifice. The truth that had followed that day in the boardroom had hit hard, but it had also healed. Sometimes the most profound connections come from the deepest losses. Sometimes strangers become family, and sometimes, love really does persist beyond death, carried forward by those who choose to honor it through their actions. As the evening sun painted the sky gold, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. Not the absence of grief, but peace alongside it. Sarah would always be part of them, her memory kept alive not through pain but through purpose. And that, Marcus thought as Emma laughed at something Victoria said, was the greatest tribute of all.